being unemployed for 2 years is not just a financial loss. It's an emotional loss. It's a loss of friendships. People disappear. You can't socialize. It changes every facet of your life. I'm panic-stricken. I'm feeling as if I have absolutely nothing. I don't want to be helped. I want to just help myself. But what we want are jobs. What we need are jobs. In my next job, and I will have a next job, I will thank God every morning and every night for that job.
That was a clip from the new HBO documentary Hard Times, Lost on Long Island. It follows 4 families in this recession as they struggle to find work. And joining us now is the film's Emmy-winning director, Marc Levin. Marc, when I think of a documentarian, look into the emotions and the lives behind the unemployment statistics, I think you go to one of the industrial centers of the country. You go to the so-called Rust Belt areas, Long Island.
Well, I think you're right, and a lot of people have gone to the Rust Belt, deindustrialized America. What we wanted to do was to go to kind of the birthplace of what we would think of as the suburban dream. Mm-hmm. And Levittown really, after World War II, became the model for the new suburbia and the kind of social contract that we grew up with. So, and also, we've heard so much mischaracterization of people who are out of work. The moocher class, lazy, it's them, it's not us. Or maybe it's so here you're going to neighborhoods that look beautiful, that we'd all like to live in, grow up in, nice houses, nice cars, and yet behind those doors people are kind of collapsing inside. Disappearing, really. So the idea was a snapshot that would humanize both these statistics that we repeat over and over, but also kind of break down, it's them, it's somebody else. No, it's your neighbor, it's your friend, it's your family, it's us.
Al Sharpton, you and I have both been lost on Long Island at different times, but
different ways of being lost.
This is a different story, and you see, I see in the woman we just saw that her fall may be from a higher place in the employment world than others falling into unemployment, but there's a lot of pain there.
Yeah, I think that what is interesting about this documentary, and I think it's very good, is that, one, you're dealing with people that have not had to wrestle with this kind of status of being unemployed and suffering. So it's one thing to grow up poor, or to be used to that environment. It's another to know what you're missing and to really say that this is not who I'm supposed to be. It's a different kind of psyche. The other thing I think, though, is what he has said, and he's absolutely right. It gives Americans that watch this, these are not people that are lazy or that are looking for a handout. They're not your typical people that we say in some kind of subconscious way it's their fault. Because these people are not those that are perceived to have created their situation because they weren't in that situation. And I think it drives home what this recession really did to Americans.
Sam Stein, get in here.
I just had a couple questions. One is, what do these people do with their material possessions, the way they handle their lives? Do they go about making adjustments to their quality of life? And two, you're focusing on a distinct neighborhood. How, as a community, has the unemployment crisis affected that neighborhood?
Well, two things. One on the material. There was an example of a woman who was selling her engagement ring. In fact, when we first screened the film at a festival out on Long Island, her 2 sons came. They were not even aware until they saw the film that their mom went to a food pantry to get food, for the family. So, starting to sell off possessions is definitely part of the story. As far as the community, I think that what most shocked me, coming off what Al just said, is how many people have internalized the message that it's their fault. There's something wrong with them. They're losers. Even if their life has been successful, they've had successful professional lives, done well. The isolation is amazing. You don't go to an unemployment office anymore like you used to. It's all done, over the web. And actually what we discovered is diners are one of the few places where the long-term unemployed hang out, because they can get Wi-Fi there, you can buy a cup of coffee, and a number of the support groups that we met to find some of these people all meet in these diners. That was one of the few community gathering places.
I'm wondering, long-term unemployment insurance has become something of a political football. And there's some, one argument is these are the people who need help the most right now. The other argument is long-term unemployment insurance actually prolongs unemployment. I'm wondering what kind of attitudes you confront it. Your subject there just said we don't want help.
One argument's right and one argument's wrong.
All right, Lawrence. I mean, what kind of attitudes did you confront in this film?
Well, I certainly didn't see the lazy moocher, the desperation. I mean, there's a whole other side of the ledger, which is how you define yourself, your identity, your sense of self. And to see it's almost like these people have been disappeared. I mean, what amazed me is that sometimes their neighbors don't know. And then when they find out, their neighbors start sharing with them the story, hey, I'm in somewhat the same situation. So I think as far as the political argument goes, there's a desperation, and there's also a sense of, I have something to offer. Like you hear one of the guys say, I'll drive a FedEx truck for the holidays. Sorry, you're overqualified. Or a guy who's got 2 master's degree in business said, I should have become a plumber.
Right.
It's this human capital that is going to waste, especially for older Americans, 50 and over. If they're out of work for a year or two, it gets tougher and tougher to get back in the job market, and yet there's an incredible amount of experience and wisdom that we're just tossing on the jump.
And when you lose a job now in America, in our employer-based healthcare system, you also lose your healthcare. You have a clip about that. Let's take a look at that.
I have a bulging disc in my neck, my hands are numb, and anxiety, depression, anxiety, I guess. I'm on that medication for that too. I can't go without insurance, especially now. It's just not right. Like, I've been working since I'm 15, straight through all the years. I never used those benefits. I worked hard for those benefits. Now I'm 50 years old and I can't get them. I'm broke. I'm freaking poor. I'm bankrupt. I'm done. I'm in the lower half. I don't make any money.
How did you get their trust to be able to have those kinds of intimate conversations?
Well, that was difficult. I'll be honest with you. We met lots of people through different social services and these support groups and networks. They were all willing to talk off the record, but very few of them were willing to go on camera because of that sense of shame, because the neighbors are going to find out. Even one of the things that shocked me when we showed the film is people in the audience standing up and saying, I've never had the courage to say this, but my sister's been living in our basement for the last 9 months because she's been out of work, or an uncle's in the attic and we're collecting his disability so that we can just pay the mortgage. You can't underestimate the sense of shame, but some of these people were courageous enough and desperate enough. That guy worked on Wall Street since he was 16 years old.
Wow.
For a guy like that, who's been working since he's a teenager, to all of a sudden be totally busted, and as he said, I'm poor, I'm broke, I got nothing. It's tough, but I give them a lot of courage, credit for their courage.
Al, it makes me wonder about the media, because I'm realizing as I sit here with this protracted unemployment situation that we've had, we've talked about the numbers a lot, we talk about the numbers on our shows all the time. I have seen very few clips like this in the news media about the real human toll and the real human experience of this unemployment.
No, I agree with you. And not only the real human toll, what kind of humans? Because when we do hear about the unemployed, the long-term unemployed, it's usually a more urban setting, it's usually a minority. To show this, I think, really drives home how bad this recession hit America, and how it is not people that's sitting around doing nothing, expecting the government to take care of them. It is Wall Street people and others that really had the bottom taken out, and no one really wanted to deal with the economic devastation this cost across the board. And I think this is an important way of changing the optics of what happened to this economy.
Mark, I'm wondering, when did you shoot this, and have you checked back with any of these folks to see how they're doing now?
We have, and I don't want to give away the whole film. I mean, there are some positive developments, but for the majority, it's pretty much the same. And what I would say is, in terms of when we shot it, we started at the beginning of the summer of 2010, which, if you recall, the administration was terming the summer of recovery.
Right.
So there was some optimism that the stimulus was getting to people, and that we were going to rebound, and it was going to be more of a cyclical boom bust. Here we come back. The principal photography we finished at the end of the year, after the Republicans regained control of the Congress. The Tea Party was resurgent, and as you say, even unemployment benefits, the extended benefits, became a huge political football. Mm-hmm. And there was a sense, as the holidays approached, of despair. And I think when I look at the film now, what I find it unique is that it was a snapshot where we went from, oh, this is a bad recession, but we've been there before, to something fundamental has changed. Mm. The American dream, or social contract itself, is at risk. Which obviously, as you mentioned earlier, is the key thing in this political campaign. But I think that's the moment we captured, where all of a sudden it sunk in that this isn't just a 2 or 3 year thing. Something has changed, and not just in Long Island, all over America, and maybe all over the developed world.
Sam Stein.
Yeah, I wanted to jump off of Val's point. We have a reporter at the Huffington Post, Arthur Delaney, who focuses almost solely on what we call human suffering, long-term unemployment. And one of the, horrible ironies of this is that if you are long-term unemployed, it actually hurts you tremendously from getting a new job, because people look at your resume and they wonder why you've been out of work so long. There's a bias against these types of people. And to get over that hurdle is momentous. It's very difficult to jump back into the world of employment having not worked for, a year, maybe 2 years. And I'm wondering, as these people go on, that you document, do they get that sense of despair? Does it kick in even worse and worse because they know that they're being rejected for the mere fact that they haven't worked?
Yes. One of the examples is the opening character is almost a Job-like figure who survived all sorts of near disasters, including 9/11. He was in the World Trade Center as it collapsed, and he survived. And I make note of that because when I first asked him, what's it like to be out of work for over a year, he said, oh, no problem. And I was like, no problem? He goes, I've been through a lot worse. And he read off this litany of what he survived. 9 months later, this gentleman was looking at his life insurance policy and considering what would his family be, would they be better off if he wasn't here? So you want to talk about despair. This is a guy that survived 9/11, survived Colin Ferguson's shooting on the Long Island Railroad. I mean, just amazing, and that's the toll it took.
The documentary is Hard Times, Lost on Long Island, premieres this Monday, July 9th on HBO. What time is it going to be on?
9 p.m.
How long is it?
An hour.
Oh, so